My name is Waal. I've been living for near a decade now in the Sundays River Valley. I manage Sundays River Citrus Company, which is the biggest packer shipper of citrus in South Africa. And it's actually enjoyable to live in the valley, as we discussed. But in about 2014, we experienced some unrest by the community, mainly due to service delivery, which is not uncommon in South Africa, and we saw over a short period rapid escalation in violence. A number of players in the citrus industry then got together, and we had already formed an organization for a certain purpose, for commercial purposes, but we started applying it to actually get involved in service delivery in order to help the local municipality to make sure that people in Kirkwood and the towns in the valley all receive services. And things were then quite harmonious till 2018. Let's say the background in South Africa changed quite drastically. The President announced the expropriation without compensation, and at the same time the minimum wage levels were going to be set for industrial and for agricultural purposes. And we then had some work stoppages in certain places in the valley, but it also escalated to violence where people claimed the highest level of the industrial wage, which we actually granted at the end of the day in order just to restore harmony. We even realized that things couldn't continue in this way, because it's too easy to disrupt the valley, the way of life of people, and you could also continuously see deteriorating conditions. And then what started concerning us was the extreme dependence on the citrus industry, the fact that people were flocking to neighboring towns, that they just expanded, that the necessary infrastructure wasn't really there, and suddenly we had a bunch of problems to deal with.
Okay. And Dion, do you want to introduce yourself and your connection?
Okay, I'm Dion Pretorius. I'm a professor in sociology and development studies, and I am involved in this process, invited by Hannes and the Citrus Producers Forum to assist with a process of assessing the viability of what we refer to as a development agency, as well as to assist in addressing the challenges with regards to the relationships and the tensions and the conflict amongst the different groups and stakeholders in the community.
Okay, perfect. And Hannes, can you talk about what was happening in the valley in the period of the last 3 years up to December 2018? What your fears were, what could happen to you and your family and your farm and the economy of the valley?
You have to see the valley in context. Again, South Africa was actually going quite well in the valley from the perspective that the citrus and fruit industry globally was going through a booming period, and those who were economically and commercially involved were actually doing quite well. But at the same time, you obviously saw that poverty was increasing around us. You also came to a point where employment levels couldn't really pick up anymore because people had employed whom they had available. And then what worried us the most was more or less when the mining sector started being badly affected by regulation and other issues, and more people became available to actually work. It's a good thing when you have resources, but when human resources become abundant, they are set to become problematic. And that's what we started seeing happening in 2016, 2017, things were still quite harmonious, but 2018, the real problems started. We do quite a lot of work with our foundation in the Valley, and exactly a year ago, Dion came to speak at our foundation's gala dinner event. And I then realized that there may be more to us, and we started discussing what Dion referred to already at that time. We hadn't really developed, or let's say developed the concept of a development agency or thought about it as such. We just wanted our problems sorted out. You understand? We just wanted to continue with life as normal and make sure that we can serve the economy of this valley and of the country. The trade we are involved in is very, very important due to the fact that it's a very big foreign exchange earner. There's a huge value added concept from here into the countries that we export into. So it was more important than just this valley. And we realized that it had to stabilize because although people may not think this way, if you have a decade of continuous problems, usually an economy of a region will destabilize and destruct. There are many examples in the world. Dion did initial investigations for us. He spoke to a number of our producers last year. These questions you ask now are some of the questions and concepts he shared with them as well. We are concerned, we're not scared, we're still here. And so we believe that we can make a difference to the future of this valley, and we also believe that we can make a difference to the future of this country. South Africa is a country which faces many challenges at this point, and it doesn't help to run from them because somebody has to sort it out, and just as well can be us with a little contribution. And this is how our thought pattern started gathering. It was at times quite interesting because we manage pack houses and we sell fruit and we farm. This is what we do in this valley. We're not development economists or sociologists, so we went through a period of consultation with many parties, and Dion was successful in getting most of the stakeholders in this valley on board in order to try and create a solution for the future. At the same time, there's a realization that citrus alone cannot look after an economy, that you need development of other businesses, that you need a normal economy here, and that you especially need black participation in that economy. Everybody is looking at then, let's say, participation in farming, but it's fairly saturated. There are a number of very big empowerment projects that were already happening. There's a number of very big ones being launched as we speak right now, but they will still only look after a very small portion of the people that are in the valley. So a constructive process in order to bring about something different is what was required here.
Okay, perfect. Well, you've directly answered the second question, so I'll just move on to the third one. What do you think about the fact that the community labour leaders have put their weight behind the initiative? Does it give you more confidence in the community labour leaders, and does it give you more confidence in the future of the valley?
Yeah, absolutely. You have choices in life. You can live in continuous confrontation, or you can try and find common ground and move on. In 2018, we had that confrontation. We experienced it, and the same community leaders and ourselves had to see each other in court a few times, which wasn't a pleasant experience for anybody, and it's not constructive. We realized that. We were surprised with the positivity that they actually came to the table with, obviously also realizing that their thoughts were going to have to change. We knew that there was very strong leadership in them, and we know that if you can develop if you often can develop rebellious leadership, can become very, very constructive. So this was part of the process that we foresaw. And I must say, at this stage, it actually exceeded our expectations. Although we live in South Africa, and as I said, there are many challenges. We face a number of external challenges. Surprisingly enough, after we stabilized our valley this year, but at the same time, it gives us all a lot of hope. You can see when you get people around the table, you create dialogue, hope comes from it. And hope is what we all need in order to go forward. We can't just look at the hopelessness of the situation, and especially the hopelessness that's being portrayed in the press today, not unfairly so, because they report on what is actually happening, but I think it creates a negative psychosis. And the little bit that we're doing here is something that I think can be done in more places in South Africa and over more industries and in more communities in order to create a situation where we all have hope.
And what do you think about the idea of a development agency for the Valley?
For us, a development agency or something similar is in a way becoming a non-negotiable. Because as I said, the citrus industry is extremely well organized on a very high level of professionality, ourselves and our competitors. The investment that's gone into it and the investment that is still to happen in this valley is of very, very high value and numbers. The number of trees that are still being planted and the expansion here, we haven't seen the end of it. But you need something to make people a part of that, and then you also need to build up the economy around it. You also need to build up the communities around it. If a development agency is a vehicle that can help us to attain some of those goals, then we will go somewhere. If at the end of the day we just build up, let's say, one industry, you'll have a kind of gold rush kind of effect. When things become tough, it will just destruct. If you don't create something which can facilitate the community, both the community and business around it, it will not be sustainable in the long term.
For sure. And specifically, what do you think of the idea of bringing people from all sections of the valley together to share their perspectives, work together and solve problems to utilize opportunities?
Yes, Dion tried to do that from the beginning and we encouraged it. And to date, we've actually all together been quite successful. We saw immediately, people like churches, schools, sports clubs, they all were very, very interested because all of them have dealt with socioeconomic problems or are dealing with socioeconomic problems in some way. And all of them need this hope that we spoke about, and they all asked to be involved. In fact, I think it's complicated to involve them all to the extent that they want to be involved. I understand there are a lot of solutions. Make no mistake, it's community people, even political parties. It's just, it's not a simple process. We are all learning as Dion goes along and he facilitates it. So far we're surprised. It happens with a lot less conflict than what we thought it would, due to the fact that people have very different perspectives here, and they come from very, very different backgrounds. But initially, when Dion started, I personally attended a few of the gatherings that the churches called, and I was surprised. Because it was with churches all over the community, you got together and you could see they were serious about the fact that a change had to take place. We've dealt as a citrus industry, obviously, with some of the issues that directly affect our colleagues and the people who work with us, who live in some of the black towns. But those people deal sometimes with a lot more problems that we don't see directly every day. And they all need a change. They all need something to happen. They all need a kind of investment into them in order to bring a new future.
Well, going back to hope, do you have more hope for the Valley than you did a year ago?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, our industry is very strong, but if you are in a business which is as integrated with your wider communities as ours are, you have a choice. Either you are going to facilitate a situation where everybody works together, or you are going to build extremely high walls and hope people don't climb over them. That's the only thing you could do. And we were faced in 2018 with that choice. You can create a security system which is kind of semi-military if you want to, or you can create a situation where people talk to one another. We choose the latter. So we already see hope. We're not naive. We don't think this is going to happen overnight. This situation deteriorated probably over the last 30 years. Ironically, since the democracy started, not that that was a bad thing. But a lot of it probably built up in time beforehand as well. These things that we have to deal with are not new. They've been around for a very, very long time. It's going to take a long time to make a difference as well, and it's going to need very hard work from everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else? Yeah, so the emphasis that Hannes is placing on the need to move away from an economy that is over-dependent on one sector, that is, we think, a very important aspect of the work that such agency or whatever it will be that it needs to facilitate. I would like to hear, Hannes, your views on the other kinds of opportunities outside of what already exists in the economy. What kind of other opportunities are there that we can facilitate and encourage? And because this is where we want to draw resources to. This is where we want to create energy, and we want to pull people into the system that is currently excluded. What are your ideas in terms of what are possible and what are opportunities that are not being utilized at the moment?
The immediate possibilities I see, and one has to be careful to call it low-hanging fruit because it's not easy to bring it about. But if you look at the communities that surround us, in those communities there are very few businesses which you would find in any community in any place in the world. And to say it plain out, there's very little black business participation. Why aren't there people with fast food outlets in the black towns? Why aren't there people with garage outlets in the black towns? Why aren't there banks there? Understand why doesn't a normal community exist there? I know it's very, very poor, but at the same time, I've seen other countries, one just look at China, what it looks like today and what it looked like 30, 40 years ago. It's completely different. If there's a vision and there's energy to work towards that vision, these things will come. We don't live with people who are unintelligent around us, not at all. In fact, the opposite. They are highly intelligent, but we live with a completely failed education system here. We live with probably a completely or half-failed, semi-failed health system around us. So if you put the basic things in place, community will start functioning normally. If you make small investments in social gathering places, you're probably going to start fighting. We have a high number of illegal drinking places where they probably sell drugs as well. But we're probably going to start fighting that trend. When people can be together in a normal social environment rather than go to a place where they actually shouldn't be in, where they partake in activities which at the end of the day just deteriorate their own lifestyle in any event. So just doing the normal things. Dion and I attended a meeting together and I asked, why is no black eye for a KFC here? Why? So that's a question to ask. Why is there not a wimpy bar, in the Black Township? Why does it have to be a Shabin only?
And you asking that question, if I can, in a conversational way respond to that. What was very interesting recently when we, my phone should have been off. When we recently, in our task team gathering, we brought into external business development experts, and the members of our task team were given the opportunity to step forward and to articulate their ideas with regards to business ideas that they might have in their minds. And that was a revelation, because we didn't prepare anyone. We just said to them that there are some people that are coming to talk to them about starting your own businesses and developing businesses. And so the meeting started, and very soon I invited people from the group to step forward and to share with us. And unprepared, 5 people stepped forward and explained to us exactly the kind of things that you're referring to. So they were talking about the obvious types of enterprises that should be flourishing out there in these communities that are not there. And the beauty of it was that they were basically saying to us, we had these ideas for a long time because we have been assessing the situation in our communities, and we've seen that there's a need and a demand for this, but we've never gotten to the point of taking these ideas to the next step. We've been dreaming about them, we've been talking to our friends about them, but we've never taken the next step. Why not? Well, because one, we never had the kind of support, the enabling support that will enable us to take that next step. We never had a platform like this that said to us, bring your ideas, and we never had the prospect of getting access to the capital that will enable us to start up the business. So this is a critical intervention that we need to make here. As Hannes is indicating, those opportunities are there due to the absence of a normal economy at the township level. There's disposable income, monies are being spent elsewhere. It's not as if people are not making use of the normal consumer goods and services. They're just doing it elsewhere. Why don't you assist people to create those outlets, those enterprises, those businesses in their own locality, keep the revenue within, and create employment opportunities for people in their own communities and their own economies. That opportunity is there, there's no doubt in my mind.
There's also why I say it's not low-hanging fruit. The biggest challenge I think we face between all of us, between everybody's ears.
Yeah.
It's changing your thinking, because there's an expectation today that everything must happen for everybody very, very quickly. And interestingly enough, when this problem started in 2018, the first thing I told that group, because they said they want wealth. I said, we've got to think carefully about wealth. It takes 3 generations to build up wealth. That's everywhere in the world. So we have to accept, those of us who are here, that 3 generations from now, it may be very different, but if we are prepared to work very hard towards it now, then it will change. Because you can go, I have traveled the world. I have been in a number of cities, and I've sometimes stayed for quite long in certain places. And wherever migrants, for example, who went to the United States, the first generations of Italians and Irish people who landed in the United States didn't come there with Rockefeller's money. Not at all. But today, some of them were, let's say, the third or fourth generation of very wealthy people. That's and they can tell you a very interesting history. And it's no different to what we see in these towns around us, but people were prepared to work towards it. So for people to realize, just as much as when we do a black empowerment forum today, when we tell people, listen, you are not going to see a lot of fruits from this venture, but if you stick to it, your grandchildren will, if you all stay engaged in it. This is the same principle that goes here. We have to be prepared to build for a generation to come and to make sacrifices for a generation to come. I think if we can reach that, we are 50% of where we need to be. You see, in a world where there's initiative and entrepreneurship, money follows, always. We face the fourth industrial revolution now. We face automation and AI, and the immediate question is, but then why is there no training for people here as far as that's concerned? Because there are clever people here. That's it. Why is the school level not building up to it? And I think all of that challenges can be met.
Definitely.
Anything else that you want to add, Hannes?
I've spoken too much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Great.
That was everything.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well
It's a
done.
pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's.
I think because the other guys referred to Hannes, if you look into a sequence, it was actually, this must be the first interview.
Yeah.
But they mustn't refer to me. They need equal part of it. Make no mistake.
For sure.
That's it. You see some of them come around has also been an experience.
Yeah, I
Make
can
no mistake,
imagine.
huh? Tough business people, all these other guys you interview, and they're very successful. That's it. But to see them over time, they actually got it.
They got it.
That's
So
it. Got it.
we started with Henny
Yeah.
this morning, and he's a great example.
Yes.
He's a very successful businessman, but Henny's spot on. I mean, he understands exactly what this is about. He's the biggest supporter. I mean, we have some serious farmers that have put their full weight behind this.
Yeah.
This is what's beautiful.
That is the
Yeah,
beauty
that's
of it.
beautiful.
So
And the
it's
same
not-
on the other side with serious community leaders that have put their full weight behind.
Make no mistake, it's also got an impact on, let's say, the traditional white community here
Yes.
as well, where people realize they can work together and they can talk together. And this point of difference that existed between your grandfather and my grandfather doesn't need to exist between us. This is no different.
Oh,
huh?
it's finished.
Yeah.
It must
Yeah.
not be there.
So it's got a big impact on everything at the end of the day. But we have a lot of goodwill. And if we can continue to build on it and people don't lose hope, but I don't think they will. For them it's a realization as well. If they want to continue with business here, especially if they want to establish their kids, something has to be done.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, we want a better future for the younger generations to come.
And this valley is such a beautiful place, you know. It's such a beautiful place. It's a stunningly beautiful place.
Have you thought, because when National Trollop came in power the first time, we actually went to him and we said, if you start cleaning up at Port Elizabeth, we'll start cleaning up here. And then it just all came unstuck. But can you imagine if you could clean up everything, how different this will be? I said it will be one of the most scenic places in the country.
That's the thing.
Can you imagine? So if it,
I think that's the vision that we need to have as the valley as a special place to not just about citrus farming, but a place to go to.
Yeah.
A great place to live, a great place to visit, a great place to work.
And sometimes it just takes one place and then, other people see, oh my gosh, look at what's happening, look at the change, let's do it too. And then everyone gets on that same page.
I told them a story of, we've got two sets of friends in this. It's Dion and his friends and then the lawyers. Sometimes we have to visit the lawyers. So we were at the lawyers together and they were in Cape Road. And my car was parked at the back one Friday afternoon late. And as I wanted to leave, somebody knocked against my window and I thought it was a beggar again. It was actually a black schoolboy with his blazer on. And I listened to his story and he said to me, no, I need 20 Rand, I think. And I asked, why do you need 20 Rand? He said, no, my wallet was stolen in a taxi today and I can't get back home. So I asked him, where do you live? He says, no, in Motherwell. I said, well, get in. I'll take you to Motherwell because I'm going to go back to the valley. So I asked this youngster, so where do you go to school? He went to a school there close to Cape Road. I asked him, what are you going to do when you're done with school? Because he's in what the old standard 9. He says, no, I'm applying for a bursary at Oxford with some world-renowned, what do you call it, chemist, scientist, and that's what I want to do.
Wow.
I said, really? And he says, yes. So I said to him, because we're trying to run an engineering program where we support Unity for Africa, and we at the moment support 2 young black kids in a program they have, and our requirement was that they test this valley, find kids who they can put on the program, and nobody tested. That's it. So we in a very bad spot. So I told him about this program. I told him to go onto our website and find Barbara's number, our lady who manages the foundation, and then talk to her. I don't think he did it, which is a pity. But he didn't know what an engineer was, and I explained it to him. So I then asked him, where are your parents? He says, my dad left us and he went to stay in Daystar and he's not coming back, which is, obviously unfortunate. And his mum sounds like she's a kind of domestic worker in Youth Navy. And then I asked him, why do you guys live amongst all this filth here? Don't you want to clean it up? And he said to me, we actually want to clean it up. But they hire companies to pick up everything, and those companies actually just take the money and they don't do the work. Or they pick it up and they just leave it there.
That's strange.
But I mean, it's not that it's different for all of them. It's not that they actually enjoy it. Living like that.
And it's interesting, one of the businesses, the first guy that stepped up in that session that we had, Sanele, the first guy that stepped up forward had a waste cleaning up and waste management project, which makes, we're looking at what he's done. I mean, he's done sort of very rudimentary types of business planning himself. And Anton and Grant reflected on that, and they said, great, he was embroidering in terms of adding things onto it, and what they said, focus. You've got a good business idea, go and become the waste management guy of the valley. There's opportunity for you, or at least in your own community. And we're going to support that guy. It's an achievable, doable little business that came to his mind, and as you say, it probably comes to many people's minds in a community like that. There's an opportunity, let's go and do something. But doing something and thinking that you can do something is different from being able to do it in view of the lack of the kind of support that people need to get a business off the ground. It is not easy to get a business off the ground. You might think it is, but even successful entrepreneurs and national entrepreneurs need support, need an enabling environment. So how can we think that those youngsters that have those ambitions will be able to do it on their own without support? We've got to help them. We've got to put it in place, but not do it to the extent that we take the initiative out of their hands. They've got to drive it, they've got to take responsibility, they've got to own it, but they need to be supported to do it.
Yeah, you can't create a situation where they are, what's the right word for it, where they become completely dependent on us.
Yeah.
Say they have to be enabled and empowered as you go along.
Yeah, sorry guys, I have a terrible role to play, but we need to move.
Okay, let's go.